there's a chance that you're not new to this make money online space. Maybe you've bought 2 programs, 4 programs, you've done SMMA or dropshipping or freelance brand scaling or some variation of all of those. And you came to a point where you sat back and realized that nothing was actually working. And it's not because you're lazy or you're not smart enough. It's because the program was designed to get you in from the jump and not to actually get those results. And I'm sure if you clicked on this, you might not be as successful as you hope. And that's not me talking down on you. It's me telling you I've been exactly where you are. I have built my own operator-based agency to over $70,000 in a single month. I've generated $20,000 in a single day running the back end of one of my clients and scaled that same client past $100,000 per month. And I closed 60 to 70% of the leads I actually reach out to, which I will be going over later in this video. And the most important thing, none of that happened by working more hours, sending more cold DMs, or following a guru's playbook. It happened because I found the right model and then I actually learned how to operate inside it. And so that's what this video is. And you, luckily enough, happened to stumble across it. So I'm going to be giving it all away: the identity shift, the outreach system that I use, the deal structure, the delivery toolkit, and the mindset layer that holds all of it together. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how the backend operator model works and exactly what the 60 to 90 day path looks like to land your first client, collect your first upfront payment, and start earning revenue share on the results that you produce. So what exactly is the operator model and why everything else was wrong? SMMA, brand scaling, freelancing, every model people try first is a service provider framework. And this is extremely important. You are a vendor, which means that you trade time for a retainer. You will be in this constant loop if you position yourself as a vendor. The ceiling is capped by your capacity and the churn is constant because every client is quietly evaluating whether they still need you the next month. Being an operator is something that is structurally different. You aren't positioning yourself as a service provider. You are someone who runs the growth backend of a coaching or creator business, someone who is actually inside the business and not outside pitching. So here's how I would explain this to someone on a call. An agency owner is always on the outside looking in. They're pitching, they're hoping to get renewed, competing with commoditized services that AI is already replacing. More on that later. But an operator is already inside. You literally are James Bond. You have control over the full business. You're not a vendor that you're constantly evaluating. You're the person who's running the operation. An operator owns a function, and when you own a function tied to revenue, you stop getting paid for your time and start getting paid for your results, which changes everything about how the deal is structured. You get financially compensated in 2 ways. The way that you sign these clients on are with setup fees as well as rev shares, which are 2 income streams with 1 client relationship. And unlike a retainer where the client has every incentive to cut you when margins tighten, a revenue share partner has every incentive to double down when something's working. When you're tied to outcomes, clients who grow keep you around and give you more. The model compounds when retainers don't. I wouldn't have been able to get that wire transfer if I was a retainer-based agency. And being clear, this is not SMMA with a new name. I'm not rebranding anything. The delivery is different. The deal structure is different. The positioning is different, as well as the ceiling. The same industry, it is a different game entirely. So the identity shift from being a service provider to an operator. This is the step most people skip entirely, and it's the reason why people who learn the tactics still don't convert. The difference shows up in posture before it shows up anywhere else. A service provider lists what they do and waits to be selected, but an operator walks into a conversation with a point of view on what exactly is broken. They're not going to be the person who's auditioning, but rather the one who's assessing, and that's the reason why I get my close rate to be so high. That shift from auditioning to assessing is what changes everything about how the conversation goes. Instead of leading with your offer and what you can do for them, you lead with a diagnosis on why their funnel or whatever it is that they're running isn't converting the way it should be and why they're losing so much money. You come prepared and you have context on their business before anyone asks for it. The language shifts naturally. You stop talking about what you provide and start talking about what's missing and what it would take to fix it. That external shift, though, only happens when the internal one happens first. Your perspective and how you view yourself in this life is one of the most important things on getting you to where you want to be. So remember that. That changes what you study, what conversations you seek out, and what you say no to. And it is one of the hardest parts, not because it's complicated, but because you really can't fake it. Clients with real businesses and real audiences feel the difference immediately. A service provider who learned the operator pitch is still a service provider. The work starts here before the outreach, before the deal structure, before any of the tactics. None of it converts if this part isn't real. So moving on to the outreach side of things, this is something that I could talk about for hours. It is deceptively simple. Sending 200 DMs a day is not a strategy. It's a symptom of not having one. One of the biggest things that I learned is when you don't have a precise angle, it burns you out before you can even get a result. That's the reason why so many people stop outreach. It's because they can't get any results. So the first step of doing any outreach is building a list of who you're going to actually reach out to. I was taught the Dream 100 approach, where you'll have a list of 100 prospects. But for someone who's first starting out, I would recommend you have 50 first, because just having that, I would cut that in half, because I want to make sure that every lead that you have on that list is high quality. And it's easier to find 50 than it is to find 100. What matters is that you get these 50 people first who can actually sign on as a client. These are people where you can look at their business and immediately see some sort of gap. Maybe they have a missing funnel or no sales team, they have a good offer or no system behind it, or any places where leads are slipping through the cracks every day. And that's going to be the criteria. A lot of the time, the little things that a lot of these people overlook are actually where it's costing them $10,000 to $15,000 a month of money that they're not actually making. So once you've identified the gap, you have to dig as deep as you possibly can into it. The first message that goes out is not going to be a pitch. That's the biggest mistake that you can ever make when doing some sort of outreach. You are not going to be saying, here's what I do. You're going to be saying, here's exactly what's missing in your business and here's what it's costing you. And when that is accurate, people don't feel sold to, they feel seen. That's the number one thing that you have to remember. And that's exactly what gets replies. Chances are you're not going to be the first person who's reached out to them. In this day and age, people say that they can do everything for someone else. So if you're saying, I know how to copyright, I know how to build you a website, I can make you more money, it's not special. And if you think that that's going to work, you're going to have a very hard time signing a client. One of the things that you have to keep in mind is that I'd say 95% of the time, there's going to be no reply in the first message unless it's something that's absolutely obscene. It's not failure. That's just how outreach works. And if you understand that, then the biggest mistake is just stopping there. Just because somebody doesn't reply to the first message doesn't mean you're not going to be able to sign the client. In fact, the majority of clients that I sign when I do outreach are always usually 4 to 7 touches minimum. And that's between different platforms like Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, literally every single platform that I could find them on, I will do some sort of outreach. And that includes switching angles. A quick example would be I signed on a trading client a while back who had a massive following on Instagram. Massive, I mean like 300,000 followers. I've DM'd them a few times, but if you can imagine someone with 300,000 followers gets a bunch of DMs a day, chances are they're not even checking them at that point because they know there's going to be people pitching them or asking stupid questions or whatever it is. And so after a few days, I was like, it's probably because the message isn't getting seen, because generally it was a good message. I recorded a loom and everything for that person, but I knew it wasn't getting seen. There was too many people in the DMs. So I actually went on TikTok and I looked the person up, and they didn't have 300K followers on TikTok. They only had about 7,000 to 8,000 followers. And so sending the message in there, I was like, yo, I sent you a message on Instagram. I'm going to send it here right now, just in case you haven't seen it. And that is what led to actually sparking up the conversation and actually getting them on a call and closing them as a client. And if you understand the importance of actually adding value when doing your outreach, these clients should be signed by the 7th follow-up. So by adding actual value, what gets layered alongside the outreach is a personalized Gamma doc that you will send to that person. It's a personalized document with free deliverables built specifically for that prospect, whether that would be a VSL script, a landing page, email sequences, ad scripts, whatever their biggest gap is, you want to be able to provide some free value upfront when doing your initial outreach message. And this has to go out before they ever ask for it. Not as a pitch, but as proof that you know what's actually going on and that you know what you're talking about. When someone opens that and sees you build something real for their business before they paid you anything, the conversation shifts entirely. And then you have the evergreen loom. This is my holy grail. I've signed every single one of my clients with this loom video in my outreach. So what it is basically, it's going to be one video that you record once. It's an evergreen loom basically that walks through the system, the results, and exactly how the operator model works, how you run your business, the results you've gotten, what makes you different, and how your processes, who you are. Literally, it's pretty much just a really, really solid about me video and establishing your credibility and your authority in what you do. So usually this loom video goes out somewhere in the follow-up sequence, and it does the majority of the heavy lifting for you. So you're not making the same explanation in every cold conversation. It's one of the most valuable assets an operator can build, like I said. A lot of the times I get introduced in group chats, or if I'm just sending out like what exactly I do, or just some part of the follow-up sequence where I'm like, hey, just bumping this up real quick, watch this vid real quick, explains everything that I do and what I can do for you. I just send that video to them. It's like 5 to 7 minutes, and it educates them completely from A to Z on exactly everything that I can do for their business and the results that I've generated. I might make a separate video on this whole entire outreach section because a lot more goes into it than I actually show on this board. And so by the time somebody gets on a call with you, they've already seen the deliverable, they've watched the video, and they've felt the diagnosis. And to sum up that whole process, that's the reason why I end up closing 60 to 70% of the leads. So after they reply to it and I start the conversation and I start asking a few like discovery questions and just being a chill dude, honestly, not want to hop on a call and discuss the next moves of how it would look implementing this stuff into their business, I make sure I give them every single reason possible to feel stupid saying no to not hopping on a call. Because if these people are coaching or if they run some sort of business offer, they're constantly searching how to make more money in their business. And I say at the end of the Loom video, whether or not anything works out, you're going to be able to at least get some free value. And so just taking out the commitment or like the hard sell right out the equation just makes more sense. Another thing that you need to understand is that outreach shouldn't be a hustle game. It's more of a conviction game. When you know that you can genuinely help someone, when you've already built something for them, when you've done the research, the message almost writes itself, like I was saying. You cannot manufacture that feeling by having better tactics. You have to earn it by doing the work before you ever hit send. Retainers are structure limited from the start. You are gonna get paid the same whether results are up or down. There's no upside for doing exceptional work, but no incentive for the client to keep growing. And at renewal time, they can hold all the leverage. And so you're pretty much locking yourself in a cage on how much money you can actually make. And as you get better as a marketer, I promise you, you will at some point, if you're on the retainer, switch to a revenue share model. Unless the retainer is $10, $15, $20,000 a month, it's just not going to make sense for the amount of work and time you're putting in, because you want to make sure that you're getting paid appropriately for what you're actually doing for them. So for the upfront setup fee for the build out, it's usually going to be for like the funnel, the system, the infrastructure. And usually the price that I charge is around $3,500 to $5,000 depending on the scope of work, which is going to be covering all the work upfront that needs to be done to get everything set up and in place. Then it's always going to be a revenue share of 20 to 35%, which is tied directly to the results that are being produced. The upfront fee matters a little bit more than you think, because I know a bunch of growth ops out there who are signing people on for the revenue share. It's okay when you're really confident that you can be able to make at least $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a month off of it. But if you're signing on creators that you know aren't making money just for the revenue share, you're not going to be making any money from the jump. It's a financial commitment for them as well, because they know they just spent $5K on someone, so they have to send everything that they can. So they have to send everything for you to make the website or the funnel or whatever it is. And it's a financial commitment for them as well. When both parties have skin in the game, the engagement runs different. Having one solid rev share client who's scaling is worth more than 5 retainers. They usually start around 3 months. That's the way I like to structure it, which gives the system that we implement enough time to actually work. It also protects us against a client who's actually pulling out before results compound, and it creates a natural checkpoint to reassess. If the results are real and they're there, which they should be, that renewal conversation takes care of itself. The mindset around pricing matters as much as the number itself. You're not going to be pitching a service. Remember this, you're proposing more of a partnership. Having a number that sits next to a clearly defined problem and a clearly defined outcome is an obvious decision. That's the framing that makes the investment feel like the logical next step rather than just the cost to be justified. The $70,000 a month came from stacked setup fees plus revenue shares across our 4 full stack clients running simultaneously. Not 10 clients. I'm not running around all day working 10 hours, 12 hours a day. I don't have a massive team either. I have 4 solid, amazing relationships with my clients with the right deal structure in place. One of the most common reasons operators close clients, don't keep them, is they know how to pitch, but they don't actually know how to operate inside the business long term. So the sale gets made, you get the upfront fee, but then you get no results after. And so pretty much you're just making up the money with the setup fee, which kills the rev share before it ever compounds. Delivery starts at onboarding. When a client gets signed, everything is set up and moving within 48 to 72 hours. You have to have a clean, evergreen onboarding process that's fast and professional. Having that alone separates you from 90% of the people in this space. The division of labor from there is simple. The coach does what they're great at, which is coaching and creating. The operator, on the other hand, handles everything that turns their audience into revenue. Emails, data, offer positioning, content positioning, the entire marketing backend running, so the coach never has to run it. There are 3 core levers that get pulled for every client: offer positioning, content positioning, and audience resonance. If you get those 3 dialed in, everything else is execution. The complete foundation of this toolkit is really just copywriting. Before funnels, before automations, before rev share conversations, the ability to actually write copy is what gets operators in the door. VSL scripts, email campaigns, sales pages, ad copy, captions, all of that matters a ton. You pitch a creator, you write them sample emails, and you prove the needle can move on one thing, and that becomes the foot in everything else. From there, the full funnel will pretty much just be the VSL at the top, the application form in the middle, and the call booking at the bottom. Now, layered on top of that, we have email systems running both broadcast campaigns and automated sequences that fire based on what a lead does. Having AI is the multiplier that separates operators who are drowning from operators who are actually scaling. We have systems trained on the client's voice, their offer, and their existing content, so copy never starts from scratch. Our quality stays consistent and hours aren't spent re-explaining the client's business every single session. Operators who know how to use AI correctly are exponentially more effective than those who don't, even with developing marketing knowledge. So the real sequence for learning all of this is, number one, you're going to master copywriting. Number two, you're going to get one client. Number three, you're going to solve one problem. And number four, you're going to prove that the needle can move. The toolkit is not about being an expert in everything simultaneously, though. It's about knowing enough to direct the right tools, read the data honestly, and improve the system week over week. And if you have all of that in place, you will be able to get a nice rev share over the months. Mindset is always a very important topic to talk about, but in this video specifically, this is one of the most important sections that I'll be going over. If you skip this part, everything else in this video becomes significantly less likely to work. Most people watching this are stuck in the same pattern. They've tried multiple models, they've put in real hours, and nothing has clicked. Chances are somewhere in the background you have a list of the things that you want to do that just kind of sits there. The reason why I say a list instead of becoming action isn't laziness. It's really just about your identity and who you think you are. And it's a classic case of the overthinker versus the underthinker. The overthinker version of this looks like someone who's every answer except the one that requires them to move. They've taken the courses, they understand the frameworks, they could tell you exactly what they should be doing, but there's always one more thing to figure out before they start. Thinking becomes a substitute for action, and it feels productive enough to just justify the delay, and it's one of the biggest traps. The grind glorification trap is the other end of the same problem. Working more hours isn't the answer if the model is wrong. You gotta remember that the entire point of the operator model is that you build something that works around the life that you want. A lot of the people I see are spending 12, 14 hours a day grinding, losing sleep over, like the business that they're working on. I'm a huge believer in that life shouldn't be that way. I never forgot one of life's rules for me is that making $10,000 to $15,000 a month doesn't require sleepless nights, doesn't require 12 to 14 hour work days. It just requires having the right model. And if you execute it with precision, you should get there with no problem. Another thing I want to talk about is the environment piece. It matters more than a lot of people want to admit. You got to remember that the music that you listen to, the people around you, what you consume daily, all of it programs who you are at a subconscious level. The subconscious mind processes information in orders of magnitude faster than the conscious mind. I'm pretty sure it's like 200 times or 200,000 times faster, something like that, which means your inputs are shaping the results whether you're aware of it or not. And it's one of the biggest reasons why people who get wealthy tend to dial down the noise. They have less social media, less screen time, with more deep work and more stillness. The principle underneath all of it is that the money follows the identity and who you are, not the effort that you put in. You might think that, yeah, to an extent, if I am spending 4 to 5, 6 hours every day doing outreach and all of it, more work would mean that I'm getting more results, right? But a lot of the time you're completely wrong. Chances are if you're spending 4 to 6 hours on a task, some angle, some way, somehow, there's a way to change that into 2 to 3 hours of work. I'm really big on the mindset and spiritualization side of things. You can shift something internally and have your life change within a few weeks. The work matters, but who you are while you're doing the work matters more than most people want to admit. What you allow yourself to have is the ceiling. If your internal baseline is $25,000 a month, you'll find a way to build to it. If your baseline is struggle, you'll unconsciously make decisions that keep you there. Raising your baseline is the work, and it's not optional. So here's what the 60 to 90 day path is and what it actually looks like. This is the map. It's not highlight reel. It's the actual path, what happens in each phase, what the milestones are, and what it looks like when things are working versus when something needs to be fixed. Phase 1 is education and preparation. You're not going to be doing any sort of outreach yet. You're learning how these systems actually work. Funnels, sales processes, email sequences, VSL. By the end of this phase, you should be able to look at any coaching or creator business and immediately identify what they have, what's missing, and what that gap is costing them. That diagnostic skill is what makes everything that follows possible. Before any outreach starts, 3 things need to be in place. Number 1, your offer, meaning you know exactly what you're presenting and why it matters to that specific client. Number 2, your evergreen loom filmed and ready to be sent. And 3, free upfront work that you can lead with. A deliverable that proves you've done your homework before you ever ask for a meeting. When those 3 things are ready, you're going to be ready. If real effort goes in daily, the first client can happen fast. Within 30 to 60 days, it's almost guaranteed for someone showing up consistently. The people who take longer almost always have the same problem. Their offer isn't dialed in and they don't have clarity on what they're actually doing. I'll give you a quick example. One of my students, Eric, who's completely new to social media and all of this growth operator stuff, signed his first client within 3 weeks using the outreach framework that I provided. Within 3 weeks from complete zero. On your first deal, you're not going to want to overcomplicate the structure. If you're starting on pure revenue share to land the first client, it's good if you want to build a case study and you can get your foot in the door of what it actually looks like to be an operator in someone's business. The rep and proof are worth more than holding out for a perfect deal on day one, because after the first client, everything changes. And that's where the $10,000 to $15,000 a month number comes from. 2 or 3 solid rev share clients running simultaneously, not 10 clients, not having a big team. 2 or 3 relationships with the right structure in place will get you guaranteed, come on, $10,000 a month. There is a wall though that most people will hit, and it's doing too many things at once and none of them well. The fix is super simple and most people resist it. What you gotta do is you gotta step back, identify the real bottleneck, then only do the things that actually move the needle. A lot of times people are so zoomed in closely with all the work that they're doing that they don't even have any clarity or know what exactly there is that they're actually doing for the person. You need to take a step back, look at everything completely and realize, okay, this is exactly what I need to do to be able to get the needle move. And a huge rule that I abide by is the 80-20 rule, where 20% of the actions produce 80% of the results. You need to do the needle moving actions that actually get stuff done with the least amount of effort. I know a bunch of people who make all of this harder than it really needs to be. So that's the full operator framework, the identity shift, the outreach system, the deal structure, the delivery toolkit, the mindset layer, and the 60 to 90 day path. So at this point, you've got 2 options. Option 1 is you're gonna take everything in this video and implement it yourself, figure out the gaps as you go and work through it, which is completely valid. It's how I started off. And I generally hope this video gives you everything that you need to move. Option 2 is you can come work directly with me inside the backend. You'll get access to everything that I use, as well as a community of people on the same path who are going to hold you accountable. This whole thing is built around one outcome: your first operator client, your first upfront payment, your first revenue share, all within 60 to 90 days. The model works for a fact and you can cancel anytime you would like. So if that's where you're at, if you watch this whole video and you're ready to stop cycling through models that were never designed for someone like you, links in the description. If you're not there yet, that's fine. You can go back through this video. It's a really long video. Take notes, apply whatever it is that I taught you. And whenever you need to make more money, I'll be here. Like this video if it gave you something real. I hope it was helpful. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next video.